Hi, I'm going to tell you about disability services for students at the University of Montana. The Alliance for Disability and Students at the University of Montana, otherwise known as ADSUM, was organized in 1988, largely because of the amount of discrimination that individuals with disabilities were facing on the University of Montana campus. The protests were for more physical accessibility at the university. As a result, the university hired their first ever disability student coordinator. His name was Jim Marks, and Jim Marks is who is responsible for the founding of Disability Services for Students. Disability Services for Students assures that programs at the University of Montana are as accessible to and usable by students with disabilities as they are for any other student. The goals of disability services are to coordinate responsible program modifications for otherwise qualified students at the university, those students with disabilities, to advocate for an accessible and hospitable learning environment for students with disabilities, and lastly, to endorse self-determination by students with disabilities. The social problem that disability services addresses are mainly discrimination against students with disabilities at the University of Montana as it relates to program accessibility. And that can be accessibility academically, physically, etc. So who is eligible for disability services at the university? According to the ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, they both define a disability as a physical or mental condition that substantially limits one or more major life activities. So students who think they are eligible for disability services come into the office and meet with a coordinator. The student is asked to disclose and describe their disability and the likely impacts on their education. Additionally, disability services does require some form of documentation to back up the claim of a disability. Disability services is currently serving 1,073 students, 8 of which are visually impaired, around 300 are psychiatric impaired, and approximately 765 have some sort of a learning or physical impairment. So the agency's services that they provide, DSS helps students clarify their rights granted to them by the ADA and Section 504. Disability services help secure reasonable program modifications. Some modifications could include, but are definitely not limited to, things like parking pass, alternative formatting, assistive technology, classroom changes, or alternative furniture in the classroom, note taker, interpretation and captioning. The University of Montana employs 4 sign language interpreters, which is awesome. And DSS also proctors approximately 3,000 exams with testing modifications every term at UM. So, Disability Services is a nonprofit agency that serves current University of Montana students with a documented disability. The source of funding, the University of Montana receives money from the state, and then the university provides disability services with a fund. As far as the administrative structure goes, I report to Amy Capolupo, who is the director at Disability Services for Students. She reports to Amy Capolupo reports to Teresa Branch, who is the vice president of Student Affairs. Additionally, I just wanted to show everybody this is the cool pamphlet that I found in the social work lounge, and it tells you in a more concise format some of the things that I have shared with you today. I hope that I have been clear and concise with my information, and thank you for watching the video.